Hello, everybody. Welcome to February So Fun Virtual. We have Iola and Theresa here today, and we are surrounded by some really amazing products and crafts today that I am so excited for them to share with you. And if you are new to this So Fun Virtual, we actually go live and we have them all throughout the month. And we have 30 actual in-store shows. And Pasco is actually joining us now. Hello, Pasco.
Hey. Hi, Pasco.
So at these in-store presentations, there's food, there's fun, there's projects, and there's camaraderie between everybody in the audience. It is super fun and super great. So we would love for you to join us. Go ahead onto qualitysewing.com for all the lists of where you can join us in person. But today, we would like to offer you all the products that they're going to present to you are 20% off if you put in the code SOFUN, FEB for February, So Fun February. And those prices are good until March 12th. So make sure that you click the link if there are items on here that you want to get and get them before they're gone. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to our lovely Iola and Theresa.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm super excited to have worked on this with Theresa this past month as far as going and doing these demos. We had a lot of fun, but I actually got a head start from Theresa in last July. We picked the book that will go to the overhead really quickly and show you the title, called Menopause Makes. And you may go, all right, why would I want that? And I just was really captivated by the book because it had a lot of really good basic projects and lots of things that are great for gifts and so on. But before we get into the book, I just want to share that I made a promise to everybody that when we brought it in, that we would make it suitable so that it could sit on your coffee table or you could have it out. So basically we brought in both the Drew pattern and the mini notebook cover. So I'll let Theresa talk about the Drew, and then I will talk a little bit about the mini notebook cover.
Perfect. Thank you, Iola. So I'd like to say I love this pattern because it's very versatile. You can find any size book, and whether it's a passport size, and I'll put that here. I do have my expired passport in here. So the measurements are included in the Drew, named after, by the way, the Nancy Drew book series. Very simple to do, and you can see there's room for a pocket. And it just slips right in. It's finished on the inside, and we added some nice corners, but let me show you. Nobody wants maybe a makeover, Menopause Makes book sitting on your coffee table, so we decided to make a book cover for this. And you can see again, I used a nice vinyl that's available in the store. It's finished on both sides. I added a little pen holder for it, so you have everything at your hand. And then to give it a more professional look, we added some corners. And so we have some beautiful corners that Iola will show you. This vinyl was fun to work with, easy to embroider. Have had a design in my library, and loved doing this. Any size book. All right, Iola.
Perfect. And then just to add to that, yeah, I mean, these corners are great, but here's an example where I just took this cork and made it into a cover, and you can see how simple the design is in terms of just making flaps and sewing a U shape around the corners and then putting these metal tabs on the corner. And behind me, I'll show you something that I decided I wanted to do. Was I made this cover out of faux leather, and I thought, oh, this will make a great book cover, and I was going to trim it down, and then I went, even cooler if I have my laptop bag look like a book. And so you can see here where you can just take those metal corners, and it's just going to give it, I'm going to put a zipper in to go around, but still have this edge out here to give it that book look, and of course I loved the Once Upon a Time. So anyway, so that's one of the ways that you can use those.
can I add a note on the corners? There's 10 in a package, so you can do 2 books and a couple other corners. Very simple to install. You put a little dab of glue in there. I took some pliers and I held the corner, slipped it on, and crimped it. Is that how you did it?
Perfect. Yep.
Yep. Perfect.
Same way. So anyway, so then next, I'll hand these off to you. That as well was the mini notebook cover, and you may look at that and say, well, how is that going to cover our Menopause Makes book? Well, you can make this pattern in any size, but it's one of the best $6 I've ever spent. And the reason being is it's kind of like a recipe. So I will show you what I did in terms of covering the Menopause Makes book. And here I took the Tula Pink Gray Works fabric,
Love it.
and I love the leopard. And so I went ahead and put some soft and stable, which is what the pattern calls for. And I then quilted around it. I have a luminaire, and so many of them will just stitch in the hoop, but then I went ahead and the inside flap is the leopard here, and then she does a dark version of everything, so I have it mirrored, and in the back here is the leopard. And then of course the book has a wonderful collection of patterns, so I just have them slid in the back, but super easy to work with. But basically the reason you want the pattern is that you just have an order of, as you make this, to sort of stack everything so that you end up folding it and don't have any raw edges. So that's kind of the secret there. But I had a lot of fun making this one. And let's see, looking at some of the smaller ones.
Do you want to show yours?
Why don't you,
Okay.
you show yours?
So I love these little 3x5 message books. These are a great way to use your scrap fabric. They're simple. You can do one in a short amount of time. I got a little addicted, so I've made 4 or 5, and I can't use them all, so they make for great gifts. But what's nice is they're completely finished. And so you can see if I pull that out, there are no raw edges, no raw seams, and then it just, you can put little pockets in there. I have a pocket on the right and the left, close it up, and the pen, as you can see, holds it in place. Now what's kind of fun about these is I used Fusion fleece. What I like about Fusion fleece is it irons on very easily. Use a dry iron on medium to high heat. It's very thin, very easy to work with. It adds just enough stabilizer to do some top stitching. I just did some straight simple lines. In this one I added a little bit of paper piecing with some straight lines, and then the little pen just holds it together, and I keep it in my purse. Now Iola, you did yours a little differently.
Yep, I had some fun. So I actually call these my guilty pleasure because it's a great way to test out different things. And I'll show you an example of how I was able to step up my game. So here you basically have let's see, what is it? It's a 6x8 piece of fabric with some soft and stable. So I quilted this in a square, and I thought this cat fabric was really cute. And I looked at it and I thought, well, that's okay, but it's not great. And so I might want to try something different. So then hopefully you guys will see the difference. I then went with this one where I did just lines across, hoping to give the illusion that the cat was looking over a rail or something like that. And then I thought, well, and then on the inside I found some fabric with paw prints, and you just make that little card holder, but you can see no raw edges and just how nice it looks when you don't have something in there. And then I went, I can do even better. So I figured in all the machines we had in the store, we had to have a decorative stitch, and hopefully you'll be able to zoom in on this. We'll be able to show you, I found this very cute little decorative stitch of a mouse. And so I went ahead and put it in. The Bermudinas all come with this stitch. And then because I was having fun. And this is where you can even make this a little embroidery, as Theresa did on one of hers. She embroidered on the outside. But here I found a fat quarter that was all about cats and various felonies or felinies that they did, crying over spilt milk and cat burglar and so on. So I went ahead and just cut this to size. And I have a friend who's very fond of cats, and she indeed does have a major catitude, so this will be a gift to her. And I thought these looked a little bit like yarn for my fabric. Somebody else told me it looked like cat scratches, so given that they're felines, it probably is. So anyway, so that's just kind of how I did that. But what I love is that you can just experiment in a very small size and be done with it, and nobody's going to mind when they get one gifted to them with the squares, and then it's not another thing left over in my sewing room. So I've loved that. But you can experiment with colors of thread, taking designs that are in your machine and seeing how they stitch out. This happened to be one I did on just a piece of cork, and I decided that I wasn't crazy with how big this basket weave was, so I went ahead and shrunk it down a little bit. And of course that was a hit, and somebody needed to adopt it before I could show it to anybody. So that's just an example of how fun this is. But again, you can make it any size. And so for the Menopause Makes book, all I did was took the recipe and went about 1.5 inches bigger than the book, did my stitching, and then turned it, and I could always take it down a little bit more, but it came out pretty much dead on at first try. So I can't tell you how cool I think this is.
Iola, I used the Fusion fleece, but you used something different. What did you use?
So I used the Soft and Stable. I jokingly say, since I've done a lot of the Buy Annie bags, that I eat Soft and Stable for breakfast. I feel like I go through bags of it every month, and it's just the best stuff in the world in terms of when you iron it will hold shape, or when you sew a line, but it also just, has some ability to stand and do stuff. So anyway, so that's super cool as far as that goes. So yeah, we brought in the big packages, which will show you where that applies. But like I said, I don't think you can ever have enough Soft and Stable personally.
I agree. All right.
So then we might as well, and actually I grabbed your book instead of mine, it doesn't matter. But now we'll look in the Menopause Makes book and just some of the things we made. So over here, hopefully you can see, this is the table of contents. There are about 10 projects. So one of the first, and the authors are British, so there's a little bit of cheeky humor, and they just have some great tips and tricks for those transitions in your life, in addition to great sewing patterns. But one of the first is, dealing with insomnia and possibly needing a sleep mask. So here, again, using the Tula Pink Gray Works pattern, I went ahead and made this sleep mask that has the polka dots on one side and the seals on the other. And then next we get to deal with the fact that our memories are possibly starting to go. I don't know about you, I walk into rooms and can't remember what I was looking for. So this is what Theresa made.
So these are the lost basket for lost things, lost items. And I know I'm looking for my phone sometimes while I'm holding it, but I have one by my front door, and that's where I put my keys and everything in. But also these are great at your sewing machine. All the little pieces of fabric, and we're going to show you some paper piecing. I save all my little pieces of fabric that are at least 1.5 inch by 2 inches, and I throw them in here. And it's a great way to then at the end of the month decide to do a little bit of strip paper piecing, which is what I did on one of the little mini notebooks. So this one I folded over, and this one I just sewed down. So there's another product that I used on here. Thank you, Iola. We used some heat iron-on vinyl. very nice to use. It's got a grid on the back. So I put it on the bottom of here. Can also put it on the inside because you know how many times if you want to put your pens and things in there, well, stain the fabric. Easy to use. You just iron it on, and it's a great way to make your fabric water resistant, waterproof. If you want to make maybe some children's aprons or bibs, if you want to make an umbrella or a raincoat, you just iron this on, or even a book cover. It has so many uses. It's a heat and bond iron-on vinyl. It protects and adds shine to fabric, crafts, and home decor projects. I actually used it on a little footstool because I liked the fabric, but I didn't want my other half's feet to dirty it up. So I really enjoyed this. Iola did something a little different with her memory loss basket, or basket for lost things.
Yep. So I always feel like I need to be a little different. It's just inherently who I am. And so I did too, but I went ahead and I shortened it up. But one of the cool things you can find in almost any hardware store for free is the strapping that comes when they secure things to pallets or secure a cardboard box that they don't want to break open. And this is just that nylon. So I went ahead and made this where I wanted it to hold the circle. I've also in the past used old tape measures. But anyway, my biggest variation was I went ahead and added this piece here that's just a little bit longer so that I can hang it with this under a sewing machine foot. Part of having two is I actually find sometimes now I put the fabric I'm going to work with on one side and my threads and stuff as I'm getting rid of them on the other. But I just thought it was fun, and I made it so that it could just sit with that flap in. But just another nice little deal as far as that goes.
Love how you improvise. Thanks.
So anyway, and then another thing just to mention that the book covers as far as just great quality projects is they have a low mood weekend away tote, which is just a very basic tote bag. And I love the name of this one. Everybody needs a dry, itchy skin, zippered potion pouch, which is basically one of those little boxed bag pouches that everybody needs, super good for gifts. And it's a great introduction for somebody who's a newer sewist to work with zippers and compartments. So that was sort of a highlight. And then, they do, for somebody who's learning quilting, they have log cabin placemats and brain fog, flying geese pillow. And we brought in some tools for that, and a blanket and some quilting and a maker's apron that's wonderful. And then one of the highlights, which Theresa is wearing, and she'll talk about them, is, as they called it, the Hot Flashes cool down cover up.
This is my favorite item, and I'm a fairly new sewer, and I've been sewing my whole life, but usually it was only at Halloween, and so now I'm doing it year round. This was a fun kimono style jacket. What I liked about it is everything is finished, and Iola has one on also. Everything, it's simple, it's finished, it has French seams, and French seams always seem daunting to me, but it's not. It's very simple. So this is rayon, and as you know, rayon can easily fray. No edges are fraying on this. I did add a couple extra inches due to my long torso, but I found it very simple. I top stitched this one. This one added a few more inches. And the patterns with this book, the patterns with this book are great quality paper patterns, as you saw in here. You can use Swedish paper to trace it out. You don't want to cut the original because they kind of overlap and are double-sided. And the sizes are from small to 6X. And so I like things fairly loose. So this is a 2X just to get you an idea of how they fit. But do you have any?
No, and I would just say, same thing. I find garment sewing intimidating still. I just haven't done enough of it. And this was a project that absolutely, as you do it, it's easy enough to make you want to do more. So I found it really fun and encouraging. I mean, they're just are not tons of pieces, and
No.
it just comes together really quick. So can't say enough nice things about it, and just even all the patterns in the book. So with
No.
that being said, I think we've kind of covered the key points in there. And so now we'll talk about one of my favorite things that actually Theresa chose, and that is the llama. There he is. Your wonderful llama kit pillow. And when we were at the meeting, and like I said, I had picked the Menopause Makes book, and we were talking about self-care. And Theresa said to me, "I love that." And my response, and do you think it fits with the theme? Now I'm talking for her. See, she's standing right next to me, but I'm a real help here. But anyway, of course, my immediate response was, of course it fits our theme. Who doesn't need an emotional support llama? I mean,
Sold.
it's perfect. And so now I'll turn it over to you in terms of the kit.
So this is our no drama llama, or what else do you say, Iola?
No problema.
There you go. Llamas are on trend right now. So what a fun project. You can do this in a day. You can do it with yourself or a friend. Great project to do with your child or grandchild. What's kind of fun about it is these little wraps come off. If you don't do the whole pillow right away, you can just make the wraps and have, there's another 8 or 10 in the series, so you can make the wraps and just change them out. All of the fabric is in the kit. Even the stabilizer is in the kit. There's nothing you need. The highlight of this is all these teeny weeny little pieces are already fused and laser cut. So I found on the little pieces to cut them apart, I use some little red curved scissors, and it makes placement so much fun. Again, easy enough for your grandchild or child to do. No zipper, kind of a slip in. So simple, so wonderful, great fabric, and I can't say enough about it. Also, I should say, see some of the top stitching here? I tried to draw it in, and it turned out it's a great way to practice your free motion sewing. Just kind of, just let the machine do the work, and don't overthink it. Now, and then the only thing I did differently is I made my own ties. The pattern does come with some ties of its own, but I wanted them to match. And very simple. Now, Iola, you didn't make a pillow, did you?
Nope, I didn't. So again, didn't want to be redundant, but also, I tend to like being a little bit different.
Yes.
So I chose to make a bag. And one of the things I would say that's super cool about this is that I was able to take the exact kit, and without needing to buy anything, I could make this tote bag. So what was the pillow, in terms of the green, is now my lining and my little border up here. And then if you looked at the wrap, which I've got here, you can see where this piece was split in half, other than changing it at the bottom so that the I love yous in the directionality. And notice the I love you is part of being a good emotional support llama. Just saying. But anyway, I did that so that it was facing upright and did a seam at the bottom. But I was able to just do that, box the bottom, and then the only variation, instead of doing a border with this rust color up here, I went ahead and I like my handles to have webbing. And so I went ahead and made a sleeve, put the webbing through, and then just stitched it down. But I didn't need to add anything extra. So I thought that was just a really cool, great value. And so now I like to say, I'm going to carry my emotional support llama with me, and Theresa is going to hug hers at home.
My no drama llama. No, I love it. And this is all wonderful Henry glass fabric that is provided in the kit.
Yep. So next, kind of going back to things related to the book, but that we brought in. One of them was these little notepads. So I'll put both of these down, and hopefully there won't be too much glare. And if there is, I can maybe tilt it a bit. Maybe not help. Well, anyway, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I actually laminated it so I could hand it around if you were at a live deal. But this is just, they call it a bag maker's quilting or bag maker's pattern notes, and it has just 4 or 5 different areas. But what I found kind of cool is I actually did this for the Llama kit, and what was, I picked some of the highlights. So just like I would refer back when I do other projects, that this, for example, they recommend 80 weight thread and bobbins in both your needle and your bobbin, and then a Microtex 7010 needle. And that's just a whole lot quicker to look at this than it is to go back to that pattern, and just some other notes about what I did. And I'm going to just put some hole punches. And so for ongoing projects like this, I can just have them in a file to refer back to. And then Theresa will tell you what she did with the little quick notes that at $2 I think are the bargain of the year.
These are a bargain. I have all over my house Post-its, but here's a Post-it that's pre-labeled, quick notes. It gives you the information, because I like to do my projects over and over, or sometimes I become UFOs and I have to come back to it a few months later. Like, what was I doing? So it gives you a little bit of seam allowance, zipper lengths, other information. It's just a Post-it for our sewing project. There's 40 sheets in here, and for $2 from Firewood Stitches. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, and I'll add, I've decided that I'd like to see the U.S. Postal System stay in business for another year or two. So when I wrote thank you cards to some of my friends who were sewists and that sent me things this Christmas, I went ahead and put a little packet of those in with my thank you card. And it went out at just regular postage rates, which are getting more exorbitant. And so next, what I wanted to show you, the other fun thing we brought in is we thought it was very important that, as we were doing self-care and everything, that we really feel, actually, I'll just put this right under while you've got the camera up overhead. But I did this apron with this wonderful embroidery. So these sassy flamingos that we have here, there's 10 designs in here. So there's a code to download them at a nice discount. And for many of you who know Lana, she is Blue Bunny Hollow, and they're wonderful. But I went ahead, it comes with all the cut files if you want to do something like put pink fabric or vinyl. In this case, I had some sparkly pink that I went ahead and just cut out on my Scan and Cut, but any cutting program can do it because the SVGs are there. Or you can skip in. For those, if you can't see it, don't make me put my foot down. And that was one of my favorites. So we stitched out 3 of them out of the 10 to show you.
Yes, there's 10 designs, which we did 3. Now I used a Kimberbell blank pillow. It's self-help month, right? I'm going to keep it simple. I didn't need to make a new pillow. I just found one here at the store. I don't, if you ever used a Kimberbell pillow, the zipper is already in it. It lays flat. So you can put it under the hoop, under your machine. And I liked these 2 designs. And this is going to be a gift for a friend of mine that lives in Florida, because her guest room is all flamingo. So every time I go there, I have to bring something flamingo themed. So this is Party Like a Rock Star. Lots of fun. And this is the smaller design. Each design comes in, is it 3 sizes?
I think so.
I think it's 3 sizes. And here's the larger size. And this is my favorite. Why be boring when you can be flamazing? Love this one. Like the bright colors, great. All the thread is from here. And so this is number 3 of 10 designs. Lots of fun. Sassy flamingos.
Yeah. So another true confession for those of you who are getting to know me through these various videos and such is, if you go out to eat with me, one of the things you will see is I will immediately reach for my phone, turn on the flashlight to read the menu. kind of a sad truth of getting older. So one of the things we brought in that I really love is this little Caterpillar flex light, which is it comes with a little USB charging cord to USB-C, and this holder that you can slide into, and we also brought in an accessory pack that's separate. But what's cool about this light is very light and bright, so when we have things, maybe you can give me this piece of paper piecing, it just really lights up stuff well. But anyway, I'll tell you kind of a quick funny story. I think many of you who've traveled, if you ever go into a hotel room, you know how dim and dark they are. And I had the silly idea that I was going to sew in one recently before one of these presentations, and there was just no amount of light, and this saved my bacon because I had pulled the 2 available lights, and even the light under my throat wasn't. And so I know many people, and actually if we look just at the sewing machine over here, many people who have either a straight stitch machine or somebody else I met who had a Bernina, they basically have it Velcroed on the holder on the back, and you can have multiple pieces of Velcro, and then you just pop it down to really give you good light under there. So it makes all the difference for your sewing projects. And then when it comes to the accessories, which are very cool, there's a couple of things that are fun with this. One is that I can put this piece on around my neck, and it has a magnetic holder, so I slide this one that could go, and I put this guy on, and without shining it in anybody's face, I can actually hang it here so I can work hands-free looking at stuff.
Now you can use that when you're hand sewing that you love to do.
Yeah, there you go.
Crochet
we
or
do
knit.
Yep. And it also comes with a case where you can snap it onto something. And then last but not least, and this is where I think it makes the whole accessory make sense, is it has this wonderful little droppable, very sturdy magnifying glass that hopefully I can show you as we go over.
Look at that.
The little numbers and such. But anyway, it's great. And, I had thought about getting a magnifying glass for my sewing machine, and they're pretty spendy. So this I actually found was a pretty good alternative that I can again position my Velcro and just slide the light in to whatever spot and then be able to work with that. But I will definitely say that as I'm aging and my eyes are failing me, that having light is just a big bonus. So
great for retreats, travel with you.
Yep. Oh, I mean, from now on, after that incident with the hotel room, it's in my sewing kit to go to any place I'm gonna sew.
All right.
So with that, we can just take a quick look. So in that Menopause Mix book, it did have the pattern for for a quilt that's done with half square triangles and such. But we figure most of you that are watching are actually sewists. So we thought it'd be really fun to bring in this same sky quilt. And Theresa here will talk about her quilt and one of the tools she used that made doing it really quite easy.
So this is a quilt kit that Iola picked, and I will say it's probably intermediate beginner or advanced beginner. It had a few challenging moments for me. I will tell you, this is my first month being a Sew Fun consultant, so all of this is a little bit new to me, but I used a fat quarter set for this. I still probably have 3 or 4 pieces of the fat quarters left. So I was able to use one fat quarter set for this, so it all looks beautiful together. The colors harmonize and complement each other. This is a square, so I think it's 60 by 60
Yep, I think I measured it for somebody.
Okay, great. And now you have a lot of half square triangles in here. And so that's when I was kind of muttering under my breath when I was making it, saying things about Iola. But I love how it turned out. I love the star design in here. So the background uses 3 yards. So I have 3 yards of white fabric in here. You can make the background any color you like. But precision was important in this quilt. Getting all those half squared triangles to line up perfectly was my challenge. So when Andrea presented to us this very fancy ruler called a glow ruler, I'm going to see if this shows here. I'm going to turn it on, and you can see how it fits. Does that show? So I'm going to, here's off, on. It's USB-C driven, so you can use it if you're at the table. You can still use it while you're charging it. I have found that charge lasted me about as long as I wanted to sew. The charge lasts quite a long time, but when you lay it on the fabric, and then you need to cut that little 2.5 by 2.5 square, it makes it precise. But as you can see here, here's the middle. It's got the diagonal line in there. I love it. This is probably my favorite item that we brought in this month. I can't live without it. So the same sky quilt, I use fat quarters. It's very fat quarter friendly. It's very also jelly roll friendly, since these are 2.5 inches. My favorite quilt. Thank you, Iola, for selecting that.
You bet. And I will also say there are a couple of stores, we actually brought in packages of this fabric in fat quarters, and the bundles still exist in some of our stores. So if this colorway appeals to you, it does to me. I mean, Theresa and I are discovering how many things we like that are the same.
Yes.
So we're going to be friends for quite a while. But anyway, as it relates to that, it was invaluable because I sewed this with some other people, and watching them struggle with having things stay in square and so on, and all those centers as you're doing it are a 6-inch square, which is exactly what that ruler calls for. So I thought it was a great value, and very happy to have had that. So next, we're going to talk about one of the new binding patterns. Perfect. And I will let Theresa lead off, since she did a fabulous job on hers.
Thank you. I'm going to head over here.
Okay, I'm going to swap places with you.
So you can see,
And here, really quick.
yes,
It's called Leader of the Pack, so you can just see the pattern.
and in this case, I chose to kind of mimic the picture because we had all of this gray matters. Is that what's called, gray?
No, Gray Works.
Gray Works. We had all this Gray Works fabric in the store, and so I was torn. Which ones do I want? They're all so beautiful. I had a hard time picking, and then I thought, okay, this picture made up my mind for me. So Leader of the Pack. It's a full-size backpack. Yesterday was my granddaughter's birthday. She just turned 16, and she's already got dibs on this, which is fine because it's quite colorful. But I loved doing some fussy cutting in the middle for the pocket. And so you can see there's a pocket here. We used Tula Pink zippers. And the zippers are 3 yards, and I don't know if we have those there.
And we do.
And we have 3 colors. I went with I think it's called Moon. It's a pink.
Moonflower.
Moonflower.
Otherwise known as purple, for those of you that don't know what a moonflower color is.
All right, so I'm going to show some of the insides here. Here's the front flap, and this was my first backpack to do, and so by Annie's, the instructions are amazing. What I liked about it is there's a lot of pieces to cut, and so you could get 3 yards of fabric and embroider it all at once. In my case, I cut each one out, top stitched it, and then I cut it. But she gives you little labels that you can pin to each fabric, each piece, so you don't lose track of what it has. All right, and so there's the front zipper. And I thought I was going to be nervous on sewing any zippers. It was a cinch. And I will tell you, these zippers are nice because unlike a dress or a skirt zipper, they have a wider band to it. So it gives you a lot more room. And then the coils are number 5, which is a nice size to the coil. They're soft, they're flexible. I used to do some boat tops 30 years ago. And those coils, if you sewed over, you would have a broken needle. These are great. These are beautiful. There was 9 poles, I believe, in the kit. So you have plenty of poles because you're going to see you want to go both ways. Anyway, here's some more of the product we used in here. I'm going to turn this around. I love the mesh. The mesh we have in 3 or 4 colors. We have the blue, the purple, the gray, and the black. And keeps all, you can, for my granddaughter, you know, she's at the gym, she can put all her clothes in there and store it. Then we have a place here for your backpack. Very nice, very simple to use. And a product that I really hadn't used before that I loved is also this elastic. So I was undecided what colors to go. So I have blue net on one side, black net, I have blue elastic. What is nice about this little elastic is it matches all of the mesh colors. So you can mix, you can match, and then the nice little handle. And the only thing I did different is I OD coated my handle since it gets grabbed up a lot. Anyway, you have, now Iola, there's also a packet that comes with this called the expansion packet. I didn't use the expansion packet in my backpack, but Iola likes to do things a little differently, so let us show her backpack.
Yep. So as it relates to that, this actually, so Annie has made a partnership, which is wonderful, with Quilting Alyssa, who is Alyssa Zaccardi, and she is a very talented sewist who loves to do paper piecing as well as quilting, not so much an embroiderer. But anyway, so she partnered up, and actually this pack for doing straps and pockets goes for both the leader of the pack, being the largest of Annie's backpacks, and it was just released in the last couple of months, Out and About, which is I believe the medium one, and Courtside, which is the smallest of the 3. And so I will show you now kind of a quick overview of what that looks like. So this, looking from the overhead, you'll get to see this is the front that I chose to do, and you can actually pass me some of those pieces of paper. So here we brought in the Carol Doan's foundation paper piecing, which I'll just give you a quick glance at, which is wonderful to work with. You put it in your printer and then you go ahead and you just print out. So here I actually printed 2 pages of this, and you can see, if you look, how I did the 4 quadrants and then sewed them together. And then you have this centerpiece. Now, as I was saying, and I'll share a little story of me and my trying to be pretty zippy, but I wanted to do something special in the center, and I was having a hell of a time deciding what it should be. And I thought, for my next one, I'm actually going to make this kind of like a little portal that I can swap out. And here you can see even the straps on the back. This was before I'd finished it. I was trying to see whether, well, should I put an embroidery? And I bring this because it's got the Mylar in it. And I thought, well, that'd be pretty splashy, but I don't think I want to live with that for the next 5 years. I'd love it if I kind of had a sleeve. So I basically have been playing with just taking some of the vinyl that you can get and going ahead and making that an insert, so that, you know, since the Seahawks played in the Super Bowl, I had to put my token hawk up here, but I would have had my Super Bowl advertisement there. But I decided, since I had been working in November on serger projects, that I remembered seeing Gail Yellen on Facebook do a little tutorial for a laptop case where she basically took this little pin tuck, just straight lines of it, about an inch apart, and she went ahead and just sewed them down, and I did about 7 of those. And then all you do is you take chalk the other direction, and you then just gather every other one, and I put the little beads on, and that just makes this really fun, decorative looking diamonds. So I thought that was kind of cool. The other learning I had, that's not so much about the paper piecing, but here, one of the things, I was doing the deep dive into Tula Pink and her various fabrics, and for me, some of what people need to know is that while I love all her fabric, it can get really busy. and my brain is really busy. So when I chose my colors for this, I went much more neutral. I chose, this is also the Gray Works fabrics, but I went, and so I actually went back. The lining is done in her wonderful Fantasy Swallows. That's great. But then I had a little bit of the dinosaurs left over. So my expansion pockets here are done with that. So I've got 5 little things. And one of my wishes for my backpack was, I love the backpack I have now that carries my laptop, but it has so many compartments that I'm forever opening the wrong one. And it makes me kind of crazy. So I love that this really has 3 compartments. This one here is just a very flat, simple one. And again, as Theresa was saying, this is the moonflower, i.e. purple, that comes in all 3 of the zippers we brought in. We did bring in, and I debated going with, this is the mint colored tape, which is really quite pretty, and then the gray, which Theresa can hand over to me so you can just see. But all of them just have a little bit of sparkle and shine, and they're made by Sally Tomato, who does just a brilliant job. But then again, for just different colors, and some of my learning from Tula was, I was watching a Tuesday with Tula on paper piecing, thinking that that was kind of appropriate. And one of the best things she said is, when she plans to do a quilt, she doesn't have everything figured out before she sits down to do it. That there's an element that's organic. And so for me, one of the examples of that was that I did these straps, which I just had a ball, and they're paper pieced, and we'll do a little demo on paper piecing so that if you've never done it, you can see what it takes. But anyway, I did this, and the minute I did these and I looked at it, I went, I know, I want to have a teal border. And the minute I decided that, it absolutely helped with everything else I decided to do, because now when I did my insides, hopefully you can see my mesh pocket, I went with the silver gray mesh, but again, I put all my binding is done in that nice turquoisey teal, and so on. So, you know, and my highlights, and then here I just went for the really nice, I went for the light, and you know, I've got to say, just because we did win the Super Bowl, you know, Theresa went to the dark side, and for anybody that doesn't know what that means, that is our defense that won a championship for us. But I sort of went the light. But you can see here where I did my accent with the same fabric as the border there. But the paper piecing just, I think, adds a really special element to it and is very therapeutic. So again, here are the straps.
Can I add?
And absolutely.
So I at first felt that this project was going to be daunting, but the directions are so good. They're so precise, but I found that the $5 video is well worth it. When I had the paper directions in front of me and then I was watching the video on my iPad, it just clarified any questions I had. So don't be afraid to attempt this. This is my first by Annie project, and I can't wait to do more. So I found it actually a lot of fun to do.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'm hooked, and I've done a bunch of them, but why don't we, oh, and yep, we brought in some hardware for the little I mean, this has padding for the straps here. Again, all of it's made out of soft and stable, but one of the gals that tried this on went, oh man, this is really comfortable. I think I'm going to have to make one of these. So that was a pretty ringing endorsement. And again, you know, I just was able to find the pink elastic for over top on my mesh. But I'm thinking, why don't we go ahead and do a quick demo and show you about paper piecing? So now that we've got it all set up, I'm going to show you a little bit about how we approach paper piecing and hopefully take the mystery out of it for you. So we'll look at the overhead, and I will just show you, as you can probably guess by the fact that I have more of these done, that I'm really enjoying paper piecing. I find it very therapeutic, something you can do in front of the TV. But here are a couple of tips and tricks. One of them is if you look at the sheet, so basically you're going to print that out just like I showed you the one for the front, and you'll see that it's all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And so one of the tips you can do to make this process faster that somebody taught me is you can actually take a little stiletto, and maybe you can see just its ballpoint here. I can actually take it and run over these lines, which just will make it, when I'm going to fold, a little bit quicker and easier. One of the things that's really important to know is that when you're doing this, even if your fold isn't exact, it's going to be just fine, because what makes this diamond so precise is the fact that you will have stitched exactly on the line, starting and stopping where it ends. So with that, we'll go ahead and come over to the sewing machine, and I will show you. So the beginning of this is on number 1. You're going to take a piece of fabric, and I'm going to use these colorful ones as and you can see just any random shape, as long as it's bigger than that triangle. And since I'm always going to want to see the lines and the numbers, the fabric's going to go on the other side. So here I've got that bigger piece, and for the first starting piece, you're just going to come over here and do a little bit of dab of glue to hold it in place. So you just stick that there, and then we are going to stitch between number 1 and number 2. So hopefully we'll see how well I can line this up and how well you guys can see. But drop my foot, line up my little dot, and so now it's just a very short distance to stitch. I should also add, I've shortened my stitch length to about a 1.8, and having a shorter stitch length makes this paper rip off when you're done just that much easier and faster, plus it's just that much more precise. So now as I'm stitching, I just go down the line, and hopefully you guys can see this. And I'm not going at super speed, but there I am. I'll go ahead and do a back stitch for 2 to just make sure I lock it, and then my scissors and lift my foot. And so then the first thing I'm going to do is then take this over, and we'll go back to the overhead for the quick second. But as hopefully you can see, when I now fold this, I'm going to take one of these rulers, and these are very cool. You can do it with others, but this is an add a quarter ruler, and it makes things go that much faster. This just bumps up right against the paper, and then I take my rotary cutter and I just cut right there, and that's what's just gonna build us nice little 1/4 inch deals. So now I'm gonna go, and I have that there, so my next piece of fabric is gonna line up with that. So again, I'm going to go right sides together, and I just need the piece to be bigger than number 2. So, line that up. Line it up this way so you guys can see, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfect as far as, you know, what that scrap was. Again, turn over. And now actually I skipped, I actually needed to stitch that one before I did the cut. But so here we go, stitch away. Go back, lock that stitch, come up there, and now that, here, I'm going to make sure we can stay with this camera. So now I'm just going to fold it up over, and with my finger, just do a finger press down. Sorry, my nail. So hopefully that works, or if you'd like, I can go over to the mat and we can look at it really quick. So let's go over to the mat and you'll just see where I've now bent that over. So once we do 2 or 3 of these, you'll see really quickly how it takes shape. So now I've flipped that over. We'll come back, and while we're still on the overhead, we're now going to basically get ready to do number 3. So again, just fold on that line, and I could have folded using my ruler, but by having taken the stiletto and just kind of scoring that line, it was already ready to fold right there. And again, you don't have to sweat it if it's not perfect. This guy again just catches, take this over, cut, so that we now have a nice little guy there. And then we're going to go and put our next piece here where it's going to match up, and that's another one of these dark pieces. So, and I have just taken, like I said, you can see these are just random scraps, didn't have to prep anything for them. Come over to the machine, turn it over so that I have a line to see to stitch. And then here we're doing the line between 1 and 3. So again, down, this guy lined up, and we will stitch that guy out. Do its little securing it, scissoring that. And then there we go. And I do like to snip along the way, and so, you know, to get these errant threads out of the way. So there's that. And then again, we're back to looking at which line we need to fold to. So the next, since we just did 3, now we're going to 4. So again, I'm going to fold there. Whoop, I didn't fold the piece we just stitched over. So part of the game again is scissors. No pressure doing this in front of a camera for the first time. So
Iola, do you find that it's almost easier to do some larger pieces here?
I don't know that it really makes any difference, because it's just one of those things that sort of gets rhythmical,
right,
and really satisfying. And so now I've got both those pieces folded. So now again, I'm coming up and I'm going to do that line between those guys to pick up the next one. So that's there. And here's my opportunity to basically clean up that jumble of fabric by the 1/4-inch ruler. So here we go here. Go ahead and do it. But I do this when I watch TV and any number of things like that. But now you'll see I'm going to add, and hopefully you can see that there's just that extra of the 1/4. But now when I go and I add this next piece of fabric, it's just again going to line up with that top, and we'll flip it over and sew that next line. And you will have a pretty good idea of what this all looks like. So the feed dogs will kind of take this through so you can all see.
I think it's kind of magical when you...
I do too. And I mean, I just love the precision that comes out of it and just how finished and everything it looks. But now I'll go ahead and just fold this guy up again. But, you know, if we weren't looking at this one, which actually I could just on the line in the end, it's going to have you go ahead and let's pretend we were done with all of this. I could take my rotary cutter at that 1/4-inch, snip there, and snip the sides, and you'll get a feel for what we've done at just our beginning paces. And this has a 1/4-inch buffered in for when I go ahead and do my binding. So there you can see just how nice and precise that first little triangle is. Like I said, it's got a little bit of padding for the fact that it's going to have a border, but if we kept going, we just keep flipping back and forth and just going that the next one's going to be here at 5, you know, and you just go to the next number and keep building. So like I said, I find it very therapeutic, and the only thing that I ever scratch my head on is, okay, I've got to remember to just put the little dot of glue and start there and not worry about it. And so, again, you can see that's there. Add on, you know, another piece and continue. So anyway, so with that, so that we don't spend all day watching me enjoy my day, I'm going to pass it back to Theresa, who has something fun to show you.
All right. We have one more item to show. This is a project that I did in the hoop. And so Iola sometimes decides to do a new take on what we're doing. In this case, she made our tape measure clutch. She made it look like the actual original, which, bravo. So this comes in 3 sizes. Again, the whole project is done in the hoop. So everything is pre-cut. We used, oh, I don't see it on the table here. We had a zipper, a buttercup zipper. And, oh, here it is. So we have the by Annie zipper here. And Iola was able to make 2 clutches out of the one zipper because it came with 2 poles. So very nice, very simple. Now, in this case, I diverted and I made my clutch to match my backpack. So I used the gray work and I wanted it to match the backpack. And a fun little thing, as you notice, there's some cork on this. It's got a nice little zipper. The only part that wasn't in the hoop was where you had to kind of hand sew it. I actually used a little sticky tape on the inside. I think it took maybe 30 minutes to make. For the batting, this is where I used the fuse and fleece. So the fuse and fleece, again, is nice and thin. It adheres, and there's so much in there. It's going to last me quite a while. I like the little tape measure. It was simple. Iola, do you have any thoughts or comments to add to the ones you made?
No, I love doing things in the hoop, and I love things that have finished edges. I am, as I like to say, I'm allergic to hand sewing, and in addition to being allergic to hand, also allergic to raw edges. And so any of these projects, you know, that have that finished touch makes me feel really good about it, that, you know, it's going to be a quality product that I'm going to end up gifting to a friend. Because I do seem to get suckered into doing that quite a bit. And actually I enjoy it.
So I used the fuse and fleece in there because the hardest part about making the clutch was inverting it, turning it inside right, if you will. And so that's where the fuse and fleece is nice and light. Now in the backpack, I was asked, well, Iola was demonstrating what I used for this. So I used, again, what Iola loves to keep on stock is the Soft and Stable. It's thick, it's nice, it's cushiony, and it gives you enough stability to when you top stitch the fabric. So the Soft and Stable, a great item. I think the size that we're offering is 72 by 58 inches. I had a little bit left over, but it's nice to have that large size when you are cutting all the pieces out for the backpack.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, one of the fun things about Soft and Stable is even as it sits in that package and it gets creases, if you take an iron with steam, you can have it just plump right back out. But in the same way, you can go ahead and stitch a line and it will then hold that fold really well. So
yes,
it's got enough stability to stand up, and we seem to have thunder outside, so just ignore that as we keep going. Okay, so anyway, the next thing we wanted to talk about, so we're not done yet, is this creative zigzag rope sewing project book and the rope we brought in. And so one of the things I loved, and I've been dying to bring this in for months, but is these different ropes. And one of the sad facts of my getting older is I am discovering that when I was first introduced to doing rope, that I was taking a natural color rope, and all our stores carry, and it's readily available. This is the Gypsy Quilter cotton clothesline, which is 100-foot length for, I believe it's $12. But anyway, it's wonderful. It's very similar to this colored rope. But anyway, I used to wrap my fabric, and now my hands really resent that, and they get really tired. And my best friend Terry, who I do a lot of sewing with, she was saying even the word arthritis, which I'm trying really hard to not say. But anyway, I figured one of the really cool alternatives was, and a great way to support a local business, is Catherine Lyle is the owner of a wonderful company back in North Carolina called the Mountain Thread Company. And she makes all cotton quality rope, and she has local manufacturers who dye them for her. And so we brought in 7 different colors, all of which I actually made little monkey knots so that people could see in person and touch and feel what they were like. But you know, it's everything from bottle green to purple to navy to this teal that they call Lagoon, that's one of their most popular. Red, this is kind of similar to the marigold and the clutch color scissor tape or zipper tape, and then black and pale sage, but wonderful colors. And now I've gotten into, and Theresa can show you on some of hers, where I'm now using wrapping fabric as a decorative element, but not as a primary for doing this stuff.
And I'd like to add that these are, again, 100% cotton, and they're 3/16, because all rope is not the same. If you buy some inexpensive rope, and you're going to find that there's not going to be any support. It's going to sag. It's going to flop. It's not going to hold its shape. So the value of this rope is very important if you want to have a project to display or to give. So 3/16 of an inch, and Iola's going to show you some of the...
Yeah, so if we go to the overhead, and hopefully I've got it so that you can see it, this really quickly is the 16 projects, and believe me other than the amount of space it took on the table, they were a lot of fun. And it starts with just some basic bowls, ones with some fusion fleece and fabric at the bottom. This one has a lid, but I will just show you a highlight of a couple that I'll just bring under the camera. But here, and we tried to do some of the more fun ones, but here's an example of just taking fabric and a little bit of fusion fleece and going ahead and stitching around the pairs, finishing it with a button. This one is just very cute ladybug pattern, and I stitched in a flight path. That one Theresa did with, just like I said, accent fabric, and this is the bottle green color, which is lovely. But this was one of the projects I did, which is on page 82 in the book, and this is done exactly the way they call for it with the 2 colors. So it teaches you to start out with both colors facing you, and then you go around with the individuals, and then you get to a point where you get to sew 2 of them together and build up the sides, and then you go ahead and tack. I chose to end my color with the color of my stitching. So here is a little, what they call a bar tack on the red that just anchors that. And so just a really fun, great result. Theresa can show you a couple of hers, and then I will show you a couple more of mine that I learned from.
This was my first basket. And so Iola, again, I'm a new consultant. She had showed me this book, and I thought, I've always wanted to try this. So I was delighted that she had selected this. Wrapping, so you start out by sewing the circle, and you wrap it, you put about 3 inches together, and then you pin it, you top stitch it. I top stitch it probably about 3 or 4 X's across, and then is when you start the zigzagging. A couple things to note is what's important is your machine. And so if you look at the machine, the right side of it, excuse me, the left side of the machine, if it bows out quite a bit, you're not going to be able to make as large of a bow, a bowl. And so that's where the oval comes in handy. So this was my first one. I just wanted to practice with some of the wrap, and it ended it very simply. And I think this took me a couple hours. I mean, it was a no-brainer. It was wonderful to do. This is, so then I decided, let me try kind of not a circle, but more of a bowl shape. And so my other half always lays his phone all over the place to charge it. So this is a charging station. So you just kind of skip about 3 inches. And then, as you can see, you plug in your phone, and you've got a little decorative basket to charge your phone or your items with a little bit of I kind of Googled macrame beads, and that's what I used for the decoration on there.
Yeah, and didn't we find it was the 8mm size that really worked well for us?
I forget, yeah, 5 or 8.
I think it was 8mm.
Big enough hole to put, at least in this case, 2 pieces of rope through. I will say, start out with not wrapping, learn how to kind of zigzag the bowl before you start wrapping the fabric. Now, Iola's friend Terry that she referred to, I saw some of her bowls. Now what she does when she wraps it, let me grab one that I've wrapped the bottom. And this is a bowl inspired by page 122, where I used steam seam and some beautiful fabric. So when I wrapped this, it takes a little longer. And you can see the frayed edges, which actually adds to the allure of it. But Terry likes to fold that edge over a little bit to keep a clean edge. But again, a nice little bowl for handles. My friend Polly's taken this one because she is a crocheter, and that's what she's going to use this for. And did you have?
So yeah, so just to kind of highlight some of the others so that we don't keep you online all day. So my interpretation of that was to take this laurel birch fabric that's the elephants, and to basically stitch it in on the bottom. And then I used, and I cannot say enough nice things about Heat and Bond Ultra, which you can, it's not on our list, but it's absolutely something that you can get a hold of, because I swear it's so strong as far as holding the threads on this. I did this months ago and fussy cut it out, and none of the little threads have departed their fellow mates because I think they're just too scared to. So anyway, so this was very fun. Another thing that you learn in this, in addition to techniques, is how to do a square bowl. So another one that we did really quickly to show you is this Laurel Birch Cats. And here's an example where we did a square, and I learned how to do that. The instructions are in there. And then I finished it by using just some highlight color for there as far as the wrapping goes. So very easy, very fun. And then sort of one of our last 2 projects to show you is, I thought this bowl on page 148 was really compelling as far as how cool it looks with these rings. So I made this one where it's truly tacked to this. And if Theresa, if you don't mind me kind of jumping in. So on hers, we actually have sewed the rings together, but since I'm up here, and just to show you the secret of making it, in the interest of time, and it's pulled a little bit because we have been sliding this on and off, but Theresa can tell you that basically she wanted to have it interchangeable color-wise, but you start on this guy with a little 3.5-inch template that then allows you to start and work your way around. And the secret, or the magic trick, is basically, here's where you've got your 2 colors, you work your way around, and you're working on a flat surface, only going through one of these for the first 9 rope circles, and the 10th, by then you've got it down so you can go through both, and then you stitch together. And in my case, I also stitched the top of my rings to make sure they stayed in a really round circle. But Another nice note is, like I said, Terry, my friend, has been doing these forever. She fell in love with these little narrow pins that I had. So that's part of why I've left them sticking out, because they're just great for any time you start a circle.
So I'd like to add, so this bowl, just to give you an idea of how much rope to purchase, this is 100 feet. So that's important, where this might be about 50 to 60 feet. This is 100. My plan is to make some rings in the red and white, and that's going to be my 4th of July bowl. This is my every year, all the rest of the year bowl. So I know for sake of time, I'm going to just rush through this.
This is so cool.
So this book is designed to be used for beginners to advanced techniques. And so my last project was this purse. It's on page 140, and this is a little thicker. This is 5/16. And the little trick with this in the book gives you clear directions. It's an oval shaped base that you start with, and then you're going to just kind of let the rope glide naturally while you're zigzagging along the length. When you get around to the corners to keep the shape, you kind of pull it and tighten it. I did extend, because of the long torso, I did extend this by about 2 to 3 inches. This is what was left of my rope after the whole roll. That's all I had left. But again, very simple. Added a button to close it, to clasp it. I just wanted a little decor, and so I added a couple little items in it. But this, I thought I wasn't going to be a rope bowl gal. I told Iola, she's told the story that Theresa didn't think she was into being a rope bowler, and I was at the store one day and I thought, I want to make that purse. I probably made 98% of it here. It took me one day, and I love it, and now I've got 2 or 3 friends that are saying, will you make me one? So anyway, very fun.
And I should just add, on this particular one, this is actually a thicker rope that we brought in a couple of sample spools of, that's 5/16. So where that spool was 125 feet, and it builds out faster being fatter and thicker,
Right.
But we do have the 3/16 readily available. So that's kind of, I think, a pretty good overview of the fun we had this past month or so, and sharing. And with that, I think we'll close it out and see if Andrea has anything to add.
Well, just a few reminders. Thank you so much for joining us today. I had a great time. There were so much fun things that I am excited to sample with myself really soon. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hop on to that link that we have attached in the comments down below to get your notions. Remember, they're only going to be up on our website until March 12th. And you want to put in So Fun FEB for So Fun February.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next month in March.